So you've been sitting lurking in the background for a long time, and you finally decided it's time. You're ready to jump into that boating lifestyle, but you're not quite sure exactly where you should dive in. You do know you're ready to buy a boat, but don't know what the full process should be. Well, I'll tell you what, before you go ahead and step on board and take that full-on leap to get fully wet on that boating world, you're gonna want to stop and take a look at a few things you're gonna want to do before you buy your first boat. Now, I know that can be a little hard to think about. I mean, you can't even do anything anymore at work because you just sit there and daydream about that beautiful lifestyle of being out on the boat with your family, enjoying days on the water. But there really are at least a minimum of 7 things you probably should ensure you do before you step into that boating world and buy that first boat, and we're going to talk about those 7 things today. Our first item on our list that you're going to want to ensure you do before you step off and just go out and buy that boat is go ahead and talk to the family. Now, this step won't apply to everybody. If you're one of those single boater bros out there, and you can make your own decision and it doesn't really matter, you're just about yourself getting out there on the water and you don't care what anybody else thinks, well, you can probably skip this step and go straight to number 2. But for the rest of us out there who might have family and friends that we enjoy spending time with that we think may enjoy that boating lifestyle, before stepping in and actually just going out and buying a boat, you really do want to sit down and talk to them and find out if it's something they're even remotely interested in. Now, if you go and talk to your crew and find out everybody's on board, you may be ready to go to move on to step 2, but step 1 really is an important step. Too many people decide they want to get into this boating lifestyle because they think it'll bring their family closer together. It'll give them something to do on the weekends, but this is just not always the case. I see it happen all the time, where people go out and buy boats or jet skis or vessels thinking they're going to get out on the water with their friends and family, only to find out their family really is not into it. It's not something they want to do. And if it's not something they want to do, or they just have other interests, it's going to kind of distract from your time out there on the water. And in fact, it may really actually hinder your time on the water, or you may wind up using the boat a whole lot less than you thought you would. And that's why it's so important to actually consult with your family before going out and purchasing a vessel. Because if your kids are into kung fu or other things like that, and they'd rather go to those lessons than go boating, more than likely, those times are going to win and your boat's not going to get used, especially if you've got a lot of kids who are into sports. Sporting events take away from a lot of people's time. It is fun. We all love getting out there and watching the kids do things like this, but it really can take away from that weekend time, and all of a sudden you become single boat bro because nobody in the family wants to go. And all of this is why that open line of communication is key to make sure your family really is into something like this and is willing to get out there and enjoy the time with you out on the water. Because if they're not in the end, well, it may lead to some things that may wind up costing a whole lot more than a boat does. So we're just going to assume you've talked to the family now and we have moved on to step 2. What should you do next in that boating lifestyle? Go ahead and take a boating safety course. Now, this isn't going to prevent every boating accident from happening, but it is a great place to start and is going to show you the basics about getting out on the water and doing so safely with your family. Too many people just jump on the water with no form of training whatsoever, and it really is an absolutely poor idea to do so. Too many people unfortunately believe that boating is very similar to driving a car, and they think if they can drive a car, they can drive a boat. But the reality is the safety equipment used on boats, the signs you're going to see on the water are all completely different than anything you're going to see on the road. And boating safety courses are really easy to obtain. Go to the US Coast Guard's website and you can find local boating safety courses in your area. So now you've gone through that boating safety course, and even after going through that experience, you've decided that boating lifestyle is still for you. I mean, come on, you saw the movie Speed Kills and they made it look like too much fun for you to stop now. So what's the next step? Well, the next step is to try and figure out what boat you want to get to put in your stable as that first rod. Now, this one's probably going to sound a little strange because I believe this is one of the steps that actually gets neglected the most. I mean, it's like a kid at Christmas. You're almost there now. You're so close you can taste it. You're expecting that big shiny new toy only to realize you're about to get underwear again because you didn't do the proper research. 1, you didn't talk to your family enough to find out what their wants or needs on a boat may be. And 2, you probably went into this already thinking there was a specific kind of boat you wanted, just because somebody else owns one, or maybe you went on one at one point in time, not fully understanding what you're really going to do in your boating lifestyle. Which means you really do need to stop and take your time when you're going through this process on trying to figure out which watercraft you want to purchase. I mean, a watercraft is a significant investment. You're really going to burn some cash on this thing, so you need to make sure that cash is spent wisely. So you absolutely have to take your time and make your decision wisely and educated in this process. If not, you're quickly going to find out that first watercraft you bought probably is not going to fit your needs, and you're going to wind up selling it for a loss and start looking for that second watercraft. And honestly, this process goes wrong a whole lot more than you would think. I even look back to my first experience when I was looking at the first vessel for me. I was bound and determined a pontoon boat was the way I wanted to go. But fortunately, I was able to get out there and rent one and quickly realized that was not the boat that I was looking for, but just as easily could have walked into a boat dealership and quickly bought one and wound up with the wrong boat, and quickly found myself doing the same thing of trying to get rid of it and taking a loss on the first boat purchase, because nothing stinks more than buying a watercraft and finding out it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be. Now, once you do your research and determine the type of vessel you want, the next thing you're going to want to ensure you do before you buy your first boat, most people won't like this, but it's going to be buy the boat used. There are lots of reasons you're going to want to buy a used boat for your first vessel. For some people, this is going to be a really tough one, because especially since I just told you to go to boat shows, walk around and look at a bunch of different boats, well, the easiest way to do that is going to be looking at new vessels. But when you really actually go to buy, I'm telling you now, you're gonna want to buy used for that first boat, because it's like your first car. Something is going to happen. You're going to hit a dock, you're going to run into something, it doesn't matter. And nothing stinks more than having that paranoia of that being a brand new boat and you go ahead and put that first scratch in it. It really is going to sting. When you go out and buy something used first instead, those scuffs are already going to probably be there and you're just going to be adding to the marks. Now, don't get me wrong, take your time when you're buying used. Don't go out and just buy the first used boat you see. You really are still going to want to find something that's going to be super reliable for you and your family, but something that you're just not going to mind if you wind up hitting the dock with. Let's be honest, with that first boat, you're going to be learning a lot of things. You're going to be learning how to launch, how to retrieve a vessel, how to dock a vessel, and it's just going to feel easier with that used boat. Not only that, you're going to have a lower liability. Typically, buying a used boat's a little less expensive than going out and buying a new one, which means if you do buy that first boat and it does turn out not quite to be everything you wanted it to be, or you found out your family wants to do something a little different in their boating lifestyle than you originally imagined, it'll be a little easier to turn that boat over and hopefully not take as much of a loss. And speaking of losses, that's going to be the next thing you're going to want to ensure you do before you go out and buy that first boat, and that's really dive in and try and figure out the cost of your boat ownership. There's a whole lot more that goes into owning a boat than just buying the boat itself. In some cases, you're going to have to buy lines. Well, unless you live in Miami, you're going to have to buy fenders and things like that. There's also going to be other safety equipment and things that you'll need on your vessel. So you're really going to want to try and calculate your full cost. And that full cost is going to be completely different for everybody. So you really do have to carefully sit down and figure out what your budget is that you're actually willing to spend on a boat, and your monthly budget you're willing to associate with that as well. I mean, there are a lot of things that come up on this. For example, if you buy too big of a boat, you may have to upgrade your entire vehicle just to be able to tow your boat around. And this will obviously dramatically change the cost of your boat compared to somebody who doesn't need to do that. And then outside of that, you're still going to have some other hidden costs that some people just don't think about. Kind of like a car that has AAA, you're probably going to want some kind of towing coverage on your vessel in case something goes wrong. And then of course, like anything you're going to own, you're going to want insurance. Things can go wrong out on the water, and you're going to want insurance to help pay for those things. And insurance costs can drastically vary based on your location and the type of vessel you buy. And who can forget fuel? I mean, the cost of filling up a boat right now is astronomical. And what if your family wants to get out there and get involved in some of that tow sport life? Well, that stuff's not cheap either. And obviously, you're also going to want to set aside a monthly budget for maintenance. I mean, everybody's heard the old acronym of BOAT, bust out another $1,000, and unfortunately, in some cases, it is absolutely true. But what does this mean? Well, this means that you may think you've got a price point you're willing to spend on a boat, but once you really sit down, do all the research, you may quickly discover that the price point you thought you could actually spend on a vessel is nowhere near that, and you're really going to have to sit down and recalculate exactly how you want to do it. And no, unfortunately, the costs do not stop there, because one of the next things you're going to want to ensure you do before you actually buy your first boat is try and determine where you're going to keep that vessel. Are you going to be one of those ramp boys who are out there towing, fighting the lines every weekend, trying to launch the boat on your favorite boat ramp? Or are you going to be that guy who goes and tries to find a marina to keep the boat in? Once again, even both of these actually have an additional cost. So in one of these scenarios, you're going to have to ensure you have a trailer, and a trailer is going to incur additional maintenance on top of the boat maintenance. And then you're going to have to ensure you have somewhere to keep that boat on the trailer. Now, some people will be fortunate, will keep it in their garage, but many people I find quickly learn, even though that sounds convenient, it's not. It takes up too much space, and many people wind up having to rent storage to keep their boats even on the trailers. In a marina, well, it's super convenient, but a super high cost. So you have to figure out which one's going to be the right way for you. Now, if you're one of those people who's fortunate enough to be able to get out and boat on weekdays, you really may not mind that ramp lifestyle. But if you're a weekend warrior, you may find the marina is the way to go. It just makes life so much easier. And the last thing you're going to want to ensure you do before you go out and buy that first boat is go ahead and get some drain plug protection. Fortunately for you, that is super simple to get. All you have to do, look down below and hit that subscribe button. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of 7 things you need to ensure you do before you buy your first boat. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and the like button. Thanks for watching.